Okay, awesome. Welcome everyone to ChangeMaker TV, and I've got a very special guest here today, one of my best friends actually, Sean Hall. Thanks for joining us, babe.
Hi there.
So Sean and I have been friends for probably about, is it like 13 years or something like this? And we met,
Actually, I
we
think.
lost track. It's been a long time, and we met through Les Mills when we were both working for Les Mills Asia Pacific, and we hit it off, and we've just been best mates ever since then. Really, we've gone out and had lots of fun together. We've travelled the world, and we've kind of we've got this sisterly brotherly connection. We're born just a few days apart, and yeah, we're really connected. And I'm so thrilled to have you here on this call today, Sean, because you seriously are a change maker, and you're so inspiring in everything that you've gone through, in the journey that you've kind of gone through to get where you are now with your incredible business platform, Energx, which is a performance coaching company. And yeah, love to hear more about kind of anything I missed. Obviously, you're also an author with a book coming out very soon. Is there anything that I've missed around what you're up to now?
What a what a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much for that. Uh, Look, I think the only thing that I'd add to that I'm super excited about as well is that in August I'll get the opportunity to speak at TEDx, which is something that has always been really a dream of mine, to be able to speak about really the research that I've been doing and the point of view that I've got around energy. And the role of energy and the role of wellness in terms of creating social change. And that's ultimately what Energx is about, and what I'm about is that, I think the world needs more energy, more positive energy. There's a lot of negative energy in the world, but much more positive energy, and a lot more empathy, I think, for people that are excluded today. And so I think with those two things, the world will be a better place, and that's ultimately what everything that Energx is about, and definitely what I'm about.
Awesome. And then on top of that, you're just an all-round incredible human being. You're filled with so much love and generosity. And yeah, you're going red. But take that in, because I really do feel that way. And I'm sure so many other people do. Like, you're just a great person.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, you're welcome. So tell us, like, I know, you've been through this journey of working for Les Mills in New Zealand. You're originally from New Zealand, and then coming to Australia, and all that you've been through, working, in telecommunications, and then coming to where you've come now. Like, how have you got to this place of really finding what it is that you're so passionate about and really want to share with the world?
Well, I think like what I'm doing right now, I tell people, is basically the culmination of 20 years of different types of work. I talk about that I'm on my fifth career, essentially, is what I see. Like, I started, my first career was when we met in fitness. Since then, I've gone on, I've worked in advertising, I've worked in technology, I've worked in HR, and now I'm work. It all seems to have come together into this moment now with this performance coaching company, where I feel that I've been very lucky through all of those experiences, to have learned a lot about myself, and to see and learned a lot about what motivates other people as well, and being able to sort of package that all up in a way which I hope is really engaging for people to learn about themselves. I think that one of the things that I see out there is that there's a lot of people that are very tired, that are very stressed, that are burnt out, and I was one of those people. So, as you said, like, I think I've always been a person that likes to achieve. I've never been one to sort of set myself small goals. However, in the pursuit of those goals, I realized that sometimes I wasn't looking after myself very well. Or I think actually the big wake-up call for me was realizing that actually my knowledge of how to look after myself was actually incomplete, because I had two times sort of in my late 30s, in the space of just 3 years, where I burnt out. whilst I was having very senior roles at a big Australian company here. So it's the most valuable brand in Australia, one of the top 20 brands in the world. And I had remarkable opportunities through that. But because I wasn't looking after myself very well, in the pursuit of achievement, I actually burnt out twice. And the ironic thing for me in all of that was that, I spent 16 years in the fitness industry. And so I should have known how to keep myself well. And what I realized was that, my knowledge was incomplete. And that the physical aspects of staying well is just really one part of what it means to really be well. And so after burning out twice, I really had to look at myself. I realized that there's no way I could change this massive company that I was working for. So I had to change myself. I had to take responsibility for what had happened. And then I had to find a way to avoid that happening again. And it was really the culmination of all of those experiences that I've had in my life, research that I then went out and looked at in order to see where were my knowledge gaps. That ultimately ended up with me creating this business called Energx, because the more that I talked about what I was doing, the more people told me that they wanted that as well, which was amazing to hear, because when I was actually in that situation of being burnt out, I actually felt quite alone. And I didn't really want to talk about what was happening to me for fear of that damaging my reputation and impacting my career. Because it's a very big thing to sort of admit that you're not your best. What I guess I managed to do in that, that part of my life too, when I was looking back and reassessing, was that I realized that right throughout all of those different careers, all those different roles that I played, there was sort of a common thread. And one was that, I guess, where I felt that I was my best and where I felt that, that I was in flow and that I was challenged, was when I was involved in helping either people or businesses transform in some way to be a better version of themselves, whether that was, teaching classes, like teaching, Body Jam especially, was such an amazing class to witness people's personal transformations, and much, much more than physical transformation for people. I don't think there's something very special about dance and the way that it does that for people, through to, the career highlights that I've had, which have been massive cultural transformations, for thousands of people and millions of customers. But that was always the theory. It was taking a person or a business from one place to somewhere new, and that was essentially what I'm still trying to do here today. It's almost I did that for myself now, and now I want to be able to, I guess, give back those experiences of what I've learned, because the one thing as well that I've realized is that I have actually been extraordinarily lucky in the access that I've had to both amazing people, such as yourselves and the ones that we've worked with in the fitness industry that have got extraordinary capability to create life-changing experiences, through to leadership development. I love to experiment on myself with different types of coaching experiences, whether that's from a personal trainer through to, psychotherapy, through to NLP, hypnotherapy. I've tried all bunches of things because I think there's value in all of them. It's just, and there's something you can always take away.
Definitely.
But what I realize is that most people don't get access to that. And so Energx is about making access to those types of coaching experiences a lot more accessible to the everyday person.
Yeah, exciting. And a couple of things that you mentioned kind of resonated with me. One of the things is, you had the knowledge around how to take care of your body, but you weren't doing it. And I think this is so common. I even found this in myself and hit like a wall last year with being a coach, because I'm telling my clients to do something and I know it logically, but it's a different story to actually take action and do it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge. And I think too, that is why even when we have the knowledge, the key is not in the knowledge, right? It's like knowledge is power, but actually the power is in doing it and having a coach, having someone in your corner, having someone to be accountable to. Is that what's helped you? I mean, you're working with a trainer now. We worked together.
Yeah. So what I talk about is so the way in which I explain what I'm teaching people. So from a wellness point of view, from an energy point of view, we've never actually been taught how to be well. Like it's something that you might stumble across, or you might find you might go to one place, for instance, and you might think it's all about physical, or you might go somewhere else, but we haven't really been taught holistically how to do that. And so what I try to do is I teach people how to be well, how to have more energy, the same way that you would learn how to learn a language or learn how to surf, and the first stage of that is, as you've described, is awareness of what you need to change, right? And that's level one. So as soon as we're aware of the things which actually impact our energy, then we can make decisions, right? The next layer that I talk about is excellence, which is when you're making those decisions, those good decisions consistently well, so they just become part of your everyday life, right? So just good habits.
Yeah, making it a lifestyle.
Absolutely, right? And so it doesn't feel like work anymore, right? And then the third layer is mastery, which is when you get to a point where you can actually coach others based on your experiences, and actually create energizing experiences too. And so I bring my clients on that journey. Is one, awareness is so important, because most people, we just don't know what we don't know. I knew that myself. I thought I knew what I needed to do to keep well, but I didn't know that actually one of the main reasons for staying well is just loving what you do. Another reason is relationships. Another reason is just being focused on the stuff, and not being distracted by all this other stuff that sort of can be thrown at you.
And loving yourself enough to actually take care of yourself, right? Not putting yourself on the back burner, which is what so many people do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talk about ultimately it's your energy, so both the quantity of energy and the quality of energy that you've got that will determine your success in every aspect of your life. So as you said, if you've got people relying on you, like if you're a mum, or you're a leader, especially managing a big group of people, ultimately you could be the quality of the job that you can do, the success of that job is going to come back to actually what you've got inside you.
Yeah, totally.
That's got to start.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other thing that you said was about, this vulnerability. You were you'd hit a point in your career where you'd hit rock bottom, and being scared to actually kind of speak out about that and be vulnerable. And that's the thing, we think that that's going to, affect what people think of us and so on and so on. But obviously you've been able to speak about that. And has that actually, being vulnerable and expressing that, has that actually opened up more opportunities for you and more possibilities and a deeper connection with people, rather than the fear of thinking, people are going to judge me?
Yeah, I think, you get to a point where I guess you just feel that it's not actually that scary anymore to sort of talk up. So, I think coming out of it, at the time, I think when you're depleted anyway, those fears seem bigger than what they might be, right?
When you're in it, you're going through it, and it's feels really messy and painful.
Yeah, and it can be tough too, depending on it's a different thing to be vulnerable with your friends. It's completely different to be vulnerable at work.
Yeah.
And that can rely so much on the culture of that organization. And the thing is that there is a lot of stigma around anything to do with something that might be viewed as a weakness or underperformance.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's important to me is I guess I'm trying to express a different way of talking about mental health, for instance, which is not about being, I guess, which is, I don't know, it just feels a bit more accessible, because everyone wants to have more energy, right? And so it's not about what's missing, it's actually what you want to move towards. I think what I've realized too is that I think as I've learned more, then I feel that I have a bigger responsibility to share what I know. And I think, as you said, it's much more powerful. I think knowledge is not power unless it's not powerful unless it's shared.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And it should not be kept to yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's been very interesting. And then also, recently I had a couple of articles published where I was sort of speaking out about my experiences, and it's sort of quite shocking that it's it's headline worthy that someone has burnt out a couple of times before they're 40.
Yeah.
It just shows how far we've got to go in actually talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But that, as you said, it has actually very much opened up connections with people. I've had a lot of people since then reach out to me personally and just say sort of thank you. That was very courageous for being, as you said, vulnerable, authentic. And I've been able to relate to that. People have been able to relate to that message and see that within themselves, and therefore feel like they've got somewhere to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of being alone or feeling alone like they did previously.
And that it's okay to speak about it and reach out for help. And I saw a post, girlfriend Shelley Taylor Smith actually posting about the depression and the suicide rates. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is coming from fear of opening up, fear of speaking to someone, fear of not being okay or whatever it is.
Yeah, and here in Australia, 35% of people are experiencing a significant amount of distress.
Yeah.
And 29% have depression, 29% have anxiety. And if we had 35% of people had cancer, we'd be doing something about it, but no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other diseases out there that do get a lot more profile around that. And we just need to sort of look at it the same way that we do those other illnesses.
Yeah, and not accept that it's okay to feel that way and not do anything about it, or just put a mask on it, like take medication and it's still there. The predominant clients that I work with, they have depression, postnatal depression, anxiety. It's like the common thread of people that I work with. And it's, like what we're doing now, speaking about it, getting the word out there that it's okay to reach out and get help. And there's so many different access points, I think is really, really important.
I think what we've seen is that when it comes to some of these more serious mental health issues or feeling really stressed, it seems like it sort of sneaks up on people. Whereas actually it's progressively, having, I guess, these impacts on us that we don't address at the time, or we sort of ignore or put away, and then suddenly, something big happens and you actually don't have enough in reserve to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so what we've identified, looking back at sort of what happens, is that if there's sort of 7 symptoms that we've seen of what we're calling now an energy crisis, and they cumulatively, like if you have those 7 symptoms all of those symptoms over a long period of time and they become more severe, then you're very vulnerable to all types of different illnesses, not just mental illness as well.
Yeah.
But by raising awareness of those so that people can keep an eye out for them, and try and make small incremental changes as they notice things versus actually put stuff off, that's ultimately, I think, the skill that we want to build. Because I think what we see out there too is that, wellness by definition is about prevention. However, most of the wellness initiatives that you sort of see out there in organisations are actually they're actually reactive to symptoms.
Yeah.
Not addressing the root cause.
No, that's right.
And they're not giving people the right education to take responsibility for themselves.
Definitely. So on another point, where does your inspiration come from to keep driving and to keep expanding yourself and growing your business and becoming the best version of yourself?
It's a really interesting question. I think I find inspiration in lots of different places, to be honest. I think they're hearing people's stories of what they've created for themselves. Once they've actually got this knowledge and then they've used it, as you said, they've gone out there and they've turned that knowledge into action.
Yep.
That's extraordinary. It inspires me, right? Because what I see my role is I'm not there to do. I can't do things for people. I can give them a new way of looking at things. I can help them discover new things about themselves, but ultimately, they need to do the work.
Totally.
And so when people do really get into it and do the work and invest in themselves, that's really inspiring for me. I'm inspired by creativity. So. One of the things that I love about what I do now is just the ability to create and to make things.
Yeah.
In my corporate job, I often was paying other people to make things for me. Whereas now I'm sort of getting my hands in there and I'm designing a whole bunch of different things, from the exercises, from my workshops to coaching sessions to food, all of these different elements which actually all come together to actually make a contribution to wellness. So that's really great. And what I find too is that now that I am, I guess, so clear on what I want to do and why I want to be here, that attracts a whole bunch of new people into my life quite constantly, who are on a similar path, I guess, or have something else to contribute to what I'm doing as well. And so hearing their stories is inspiring. And then the other thing I think is that you have to go out and look for it too. Is that I love just meeting interesting people and finding common ground. And I think, I say to people, like, you should always try to have at least one interesting conversation a week.
Yeah.
Just with someone that, you don't know where the conversation is going to go, but there's something about that person that you're interested in understanding what they do, why they love what they do. And the more that we can hear those good news stories of people that love what they do, love why they do it, love who they work with, the better, because I feel like that's too rare.
Definitely. I've been exploring that myself over the last couple of months and just having creative conversations with people, and like the inspiration and energy I feel after a conversation like that is so incredible. And it's just opened your eyes to a different perspective, a different way of thinking, just to be able to have that connection, just to be able to have that conversation, because as we know, with the way that the world is, moving and has moved towards smartphones and technology and so forth, there's such a huge disconnection with people, and possibly this too could be part of the reason why there's so many more, or the mental illnesses are on the rise, because that lack of conversation and just talking and sharing how we're feeling and what's going on for us.
Yeah, I think that there's, a lot of the research that I've read and some research that I've commissioned myself in previous roles as well shows that actually little moments of connection, like whether that's with a complete stranger where you might just see some, strange, crazy thing and sort of share a smile, through connecting to your loved ones, your partner, your children, through to actually just connecting with you, like spending time even just connecting with yourself. Like as you said, those devices sort of rob us right along that spectrum, because we don't spend time with ourselves at the one end because we're too stuck in our phones, and then we're actually robbed, every day of all those little opportunities to have random connections with strangers, as well, because our heads are down on our phones.
Yeah.
And so, and then you just see, you go to a restaurant and you see a whole family together and no one's talking together to each other.
Yeah.
So I think we've become addicted to those things, and it is that you have to be very, very conscious about putting that stuff away, and actually relearning the skills to actually just connect and have a conversation.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can even share from my own experiences recently as well. And what I see so much around, there's so much pressure through the outside world, through marketing, through our neighbors, through our friends, through our family, and so on, to have certain things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get those certain things, we buy this, we've got the best and we've got the latest and the greatest and all of that, there's still a void, there's still something missing. And for me too, like over these last few months, I thought like my big focus was on building my business. Well, actually, it wasn't that. What really mattered was creating a better connection with Curtis, with my partner. And now that I've been able to face that and deal with that and work through some messy stuff, like it's the breakthrough that I just got like yesterday, is actually none of that matters. Like what really matters is our relationship and that we're there for each other and our and our daughter, of course. And like, but it's it's the same thing. Like we know that logically, and we think like when we're at our deathbed, you know, what's really going to matter? It's not going to be how much money we made or what fucking job title we had or how much our business turned over. It's the people that are there. It's the relationships that we've got with those people that is what really matter. So again, we know it logically, but there's so much pressure around everything else that we lose sight of that.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like what?
Well, it's so this is one of the things that I hear quite often, right? So I was talking to a client the other day, who is actually quite a high achiever. His ambition was to be like a CFO. By the time he's 30, he achieved it, celebrated that, and then the next day woke up and went, "Now what?
It's not enough." Yeah.
You know, or people that sort of like especially say around my age, our age, where you're getting to your 40s. You should have the family, the house, the kids in private school, the big job, and all that sort of stuff. And you have all those things, and you just look around and you go, "Well, what? I'm still not happy. I'm still not feeling fulfilled. Why is that?"
Yeah.
And this is also, I think, one of the factors that gets exacerbated by technology is that we're constantly looking for external validation of our own worth, and this is what I guess what Energx is about too, is just teaching people actually that everything you've actually got is inside you, and if you can build that strength, can give that as much focus as you do on buying stuff, right? Then you'll actually be, as you said, way more happier, because ultimately it's going to be down to the relationships and experiences and memories that make your life richer, not the stuff that we buy.
Yeah, and just loving ourselves for us with our imperfections and our not enoughness and our not feeling lovable or whatever it might be, and accepting that part of us and loving us as a whole, the wholeness of who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things too, is one of my favorite lines in this poem that I use, which is about self-esteem, is essentially about that we often don't understand ourselves and confuse ourselves about why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And that's actually like if you could be curious, if you could reframe that to be curious about that, versus sort of judge yourself for it, then I think that would go a long way to us sort of seeing ourselves a little bit more differently as well.
Yeah, definitely. I like that. Curiosity is good.
Yeah.
So I see you as like an absolute change maker. You've made huge changes in your own life, and you've created this incredible business platform, and you're continuing to grow it and build it. What's been your biggest challenges to bring this all to life?
So I think the biggest challenge is always me.
Yeah.
To be honest. So, there's been times when, you just, again, it's just sort of self-doubt sort of creeps in. There's, as you said, you're sort of fearful when things don't often go, say, to plan, or they go slower than you'd like them to go, and so things can be a bit scary. Yeah. And you've just really got to pull deep. But that's actually when it's also the time that you need to talk the most as well, I've discovered too, because I think when I've sort of expressed that I'm feeling that way to friends, like that's when I've actually felt like we got this amazing response from people. And also I think that it's okay to accept that not, like, once you know your strengths as well, to know really quickly when you're not using them so that you can get the right support to do that too, because there's nothing worse than sort of spending a whole bunch of time and energy and perhaps even money on stuff that you don't really enjoy doing that someone else would enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You know, and that just really distracts from what you actually love to do.
Yeah, and what you're good at, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what I think there's way too many of us that sort of spend time doing stuff that we don't enjoy. Even if it is recent research that came in Australia said that only about 24% of Australians actually love their jobs. I'm like, we spend over 100,000 hours of our lives at work. You know, I want to be doing something that I love.
Totally.
You know. So, but to your other point, like, you know, we've not actually been told that that's okay. You've been told that you should have a certain career and you should get to a certain level, and you know, all of that sort of stuff. And actually, that's not really what it's about.
Yeah, and can be programmed by, parents and aunties and uncles and family that, you know, you should be doing this job, even though that's not, you know, where your heart is at. But the generation has done that, and so you have to do that. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think, the thing is that, like, those people that love us, sometimes that, like, they're giving us that advice, right, for the right reasons. Like, they want us to be successful. They want us to have a good life and all of that sort of stuff. So the intent is good. It's just that there's part where you have to really go through the self-discovery to actually work out what it is that you're great at, what it is that you really love, and how you sort of bring those two things together. I'll be the first to admit, like, it took me till I was 38 to really even work that out. Yeah. Right. With all the support. And I think that there's enough here now that people shouldn't necessarily have to wait that long. If they're given the right skills to actually find that, and then the permission to not just do what everyone else has told them to do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely. So, and I think what you've done is you've taken yourself on, you know, you've stepped up, you've really, you know, looked at growth and opportunity to expand yourself. And you know, I think one of the things I read today about just showing up, you know, showing up for yourself doesn't always look glamorous, you know. It's like going through the trenches and doing the hard stuff, and I think a lot of people stay away from that. You know, it's easier to just lead a mediocre, you know, status quo life because that's cruisy and it's a lot, you know, it's not a lot more comfortable. But then, you know, they're not really respecting themselves in terms of what really is within them, because every person that I've ever met has pretty much not been completely satisfied and wants more, but it's just knowing that next step or being willing to go there and perhaps get a bit, you know, fail or get a bit messy or, you know, and that's what you've done, right? Taken. Yeah, I think you have to be, I think it's whether you make the decision, I guess, to look at what's missing and look at that first at yourself versus try to fill it. Yeah. You know, like I think because we live we live in a society now where you can get instant gratification from basically anywhere for anything. Yeah. And that will give you a little bit of a buzz or whatever for that, but you know, ultimately it's not going to fill why you're feeling that way in the first place. Yeah. And I think that it is like it. I mean, we naturally go away from things that seem painful. Yeah. You know, and I guess that's sort of one of the reasons why, you know, the approach that I'm taking is about sort of giving someone some place for people to go towards versus away from. So, you know, because I think we all, you know, you talk to people nowadays, you ask them how they are, and everyone says that they're tired and busy, you know, and I'm just like, well, that's not really a way to live life. Yeah, great. Like, you know, so how can you have more energy so you're not tired? How can you have more energy so that you can achieve what you need to, but without being busy necessarily? So which is actually a strange place for me as an entrepreneur to be as well, because I choose not to be busy necessarily, because I have to role model what I do, but also because I just think, that's not, I don't want to be working 10 hours a day and 7 days a week. And, even though I still, obviously what the work I'm doing is to help people, it just comes back again. I would only be able to help people as much as I've been able to look after myself first.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to you, doing the work on yourself and looking internal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool, awesome, and it's great that you've got and have developed such an incredible platform to help people, and in your trainings and the work that you're doing. Yeah, I love it. And then just one more question: what advice have you got for anyone out there that's wanting to make a change in their life, whether it be in their business, their career, in their personal life, health and fitness? What's like the golden nugget you could give them, some advice?
So the number one thing I get is to actually start by, before making any changes, is actually to give yourself a bit of that self-love, to look after yourself, because change requires energy ultimately, right? So the energy that got you to here is not going to get you to the next change that you want. Right? And therefore, especially if you're going to make a big change in this, if it's a personal one, like if it's a career change, if it's a relationship change or something like that, you want to be the most energized that you can before you make that decision, because being depleted means that you're either going to make a bad decision, or the impact of that decision, you might not be quite ready for the consequences of that, and therefore if you're already depleted and then you go and change your job, and then suddenly you've got to work, even more hours than you were doing before to get on top of things, or, it's just not going to be healthy for you.
Downward spiral, yeah.
And so, when the way that we work with people is, we'll assess them holistically, and where we see that there's big gaps in terms of the change they want to create, we actually get them to focus on the small ones first, so that they're building that energy, that reserve, so that when they want to tackle that bigger stuff, they've got that in reserve to be able to do that and to do that well. Or what they might find is that by doing those little things, actually that big gap isn't as big as it was before.
Yeah.
They're just much more able to create the change that they want. And I think it all starts with just looking after yourself, physically, and doing stuff that is making good decisions about what you put into your body, how you treat your body, how you move, how you breathe, how you drink water, and it's really basic.
Yeah, great advice.
But it's actually quite, people say to me like, oh, I'm feeling really stressed, and like the first thing I'll tell them to do is, are you drinking enough water?
Yeah.
They're like, that got to do with it, but it's really that simple, is that, most of the top 100 illnesses that affect humans come down to water, sleep, and air, fresh air.
Yeah.
Just being out and moving, and we sort of forget that.
Yeah, the basics. So good. Awesome. Love it. I totally agree. 100%. So easy to not take care of ourselves and forget how important we actually really are. And when you're young and, kind of vibrant, and, you don't think about that so much either, right?
Yeah.
Until it's too late. And then you're like, oh, I wish I had have thought about that. So that's great. So how can people find you and get in touch with you?
So the way that we work is it's just through our website, so energx.com.au, so energx.com.au, and just check out what we do there. You can find some more information around the framework that we use around building energy intelligence, so that you can look after yourself better, be more well, have the energy for all the stuff and the people that are important to you. So check that out. And then otherwise we're on Facebook, as well. There's videos and articles and that sort of stuff there too.
Awesome. Well, I
Thanks.
hope everyone goes and checks you out, because you're definitely a change maker, doing some really powerful work, which I've obviously been a part of as well, and been able to check out. So I know what it's all about, and it's incredible. And I'm just really proud to see what you're up to.
Thanks so much, Judy. Awesome
You're welcome.
to talk
Thanks
to
for
you.
being. Hey.
Awesome to talk to you. As
Awesome.
always.